d4, knight f6, c4, e6, knight f3, d5, knight c3, bishop b4, c takes d5, e takes d5, bishop f4, castle kingside, e3, c5, d takes c5, queen a5, knight d2, knight c6, knight b3, bishop takes c3, check, b takes c3, queen takes c3, check, queen d2, queen takes d2, check, king takes d2, knight e4, check, king e1, g5, bishop c7, bishop e6, f3, rook a c8, bishop g3, knight takes g3, h takes g3, king g7, bishop d3, h6, king d2, knight e5, rook hc1, rook fe8, knight d4, knight c4, check, bishop takes c4, d takes c4, knight takes e6, check, rook takes e6, rook takes c4, b6, rook a c1, rook ec6, rook a4, rook takes c5, rook takes c5, rook takes c5, rook takes a7, rook b5, rook c7, rook a5, rook c2, rook a3, g4, b5, rook b2, b4, e4, king f6, king c2, rook c3, check, king b1, rook c4, rook d2, king e5, rook d5, check, king f4, rook f5, check, king g3, rook takes f7, rook c3, rook f6, king takes g2, e5, rook e3, e6, rook e2, king c1, rook takes a2, king d1, b3, e7, b2, king c2, b1 promotes to queen, check, king takes b1, rook e2, rook f7, king f2, King C1, King E1, Rook H7, Rook E6, King C2, King E2, Rook F7, Rook E3, King C1, King E1, King B1, King E2, King C2, King E1, Rook H7, King E2, Rook takes H6, Rook takes E7, Rook F6, Rook E3, Rook F5, Rook takes F3, Rook takes G5, Rook G3, Rook E5, check, King F3, G5, King F4, Rook C5, Rook takes G5, Rook takes G5, King takes G5,